Hey everybody, it's LaRonda and I'm back with another video. After a long 2-month hiatus, I'm back. Let me tell you, it's been the craziest. For me, I think I tried to post videos, but they had been more inconsistent. But I would say since last September, things have been crazy. And I really tried to keep up with the videos, but it had been more and more difficult because my stress levels were mounting on so many other things that I had been working on. So let me give you a quick little recap. Um, Outside of my whole dating life, I have a regular 9 to 5 job, but I also have rental property that I've been trying to manage and maintain. It was sort of my fallback plan when I decided to move to Puerto Rico in 2012. Before I left Philadelphia, I decided, okay, I'm going to go ahead and buy this triplex and use it as a rental. But then, if anything didn't go well for me in Puerto Rico, I would always have this place to sort of fall back on. When one of the tenants moved out, I could move back to Philly if I needed to, right? So that was my whole plan, and I've had the building since then. And generally, I've had good experience with tenants and everything. People have moved in and moved out, and I've managed things from a distance. I've had a few snafus here and there with management companies that were overcharging me for things, but eventually I ended up starting to manage everything on my own and things were working out. But then in September, I had one of my long-term tenants move out, and they kind of left a lot of mess and left the place in bad condition. So I ended up having to hire someone to go in and turn the place over and everything. And I also hired a realtor who was going to be the person that was going to show the property and advertise it and everything and make sure that it could be rented out. So I had the guys come in and turn the place over, and for the most part, I guess they did an okay job, but there were certain things that were sort of left undone. Like the stove wasn't cleaned and the ceiling wasn't fully painted. And anyway, all I kept hearing from the realtor was that, she wasn't getting anybody to come over to the place, or when she was, nobody was putting in an application, or they were complaining about the size of the place. And I'm like, okay, well, I had rented this place. It had gone empty. One of my older tenants had left before, and I rented the place out within a month. So I'm trying to figure out what was going on and why this time people were complaining so much about the size of the place. It's a good location right off of Broad Street. If you know Philadelphia, Broad Street and Market Street are the two main streets. And this place is right off of Broad, near all of the stadiums and restaurants and all types of stuff. So it's in a good location. Anyway, as the place finally got turned over in November and was ready to be rented out, she put it up. But I saw the pictures that she put up of it. They were terrible. She had materials that they were using to clean the house and stuff like that were in the pictures. I mean, these are things that you don't do. When you're renting out a place, you don't put that kind of stuff in the pictures. You make them as bright and, as neat and clean as you can. So the pictures were terrible. It didn't surprise me that nobody was coming to see it. It also, once the winter came, I made the rookie mistake of not having the electricity on. So the pipes froze, and all of the work that had been done, in November and having the place ready to go was then all of that stuff had to be redone because the pipe burst, and the water restoration people that I hired came in and did a whole bunch of stuff, pulled up the carpets, cut out pieces of the wall, took the cabinets and all that stuff off of the walls. All types of madness they did under the assumption that it was going to be covered under my insurance, which it ended up not being. And I saw pictures of the carpet that they had pulled up, and it was like wet in one corner, something that they could have easily dried out and it would have been fine, but they chose to do all this extra stuff. So I had to then go back in and have somebody else come over and redo all of that stuff that, that they had pulled out, and put the kitchen back together, and all. It was just a mess. So I ended up going there in May, towards the end when things were kind of wrapping up, and finishing up that apartment, getting it really nice and clean. I took some nice pictures of it and put it up on Zillow, where I usually advertise my places. And let me tell you, the place got rented, I would say, within a couple of weeks. Because it makes a true difference how you number one, how you advertise a place, and number two, making sure that the place is clean. So like, you can't bring people into the apartment with the stove still dirty from the last people, or the microwave still dirty from the last people. And these were kind of the things that I expected the original people that I hired to go in and do, to go in and clean up the refrigerator, clean up the stove, clean up the microwave, have the place looking like somebody cared about it and wanted to move in. So, it was all this stuff. Anyway, that place got rented out, thankfully, relatively fast after I went there, and my family went and helped me out to get it ready. Then I had another guy who was moving out a couple of months later, so I came back to Puerto Rico to wait out the time where this guy was going to move out of the apartment. And then during that like 2 month span while I was waiting for him to move out, I was taking classes. I had some classes that I had signed up for work, 3 of those, and those all had to be done within 6 months. So of course, focusing on the rental and all the other stuff that I had going on with that, I didn't start those classes until the summertime. So starting June, I was doing those classes, and yeah, I think I may have created a video or 2 during that time, but I know I created at least 1 that I didn't even post. It just, like, I was so bogged down with so much stuff and so much stress because, when you have a rental property and it's not full, and you're constantly bleeding money and paying people to do stuff, and you don't have any money coming in, or you only have 1 or 2 of the apartments bringing you money, and then you have the other one which is like money is just going out the window every time. It was stressful. And so I started to get to the end of my reserves, and it was just too much. So I kind of got off track with my YouTube stuff. But then I started those classes. I started, got into some different books and stuff. And over this summer, I ended up reading or finding a book called The Magic of Thinking Big. And I forget what other book that I read or where I got it from, that I needed to actually sit down and write out some goals. So I had bought this vision board, like a cork board or whatever, and I finally sat down and put some actual things on it that I really wanted to do. So one of the things that I really decided that I wanted to do was I wanted to get a certain number more units before the end of this year. Now that was something that I hadn't established before, and I had been feeling so like overwhelmed with the other units, and feeling like I wasn't sure if I wanted to stay on the island or not. Do I want to go somewhere else? What do I want to do? I had no idea. But once I sat down and kind of number one, stop selling myself short and telling myself that, the conditions weren't perfect. I didn't have enough this, or I wasn't enough that, or I didn't have this ready to go. Once I sat down and stopped doing all that and decided that I was going to put the fear aside, and I was just going to step out and start doing regardless, however it turned out, I was going to step out and start doing. Then I started to feel a little bit more free, right? So, okay, the magic of thinking big, if you're a person that likes books that kind of, this book is from 1959. So, but it still has such relevant information to today. You know, it talks about people that worry about their age, or like, oh, I'm too young to take over the department, or I'm too old to do this, or I'm too this, you know, I don't have enough money, or I don't have enough this, or I'm not as exciting or not as interesting. This book kind of shows you that you don't have to have everything, does not have to be perfect. You don't have to have, you don't have to be 50 to be in charge of the department, or you don't have to worry about, all of these different things and having all the conditions be right for you to start making moves in to have the life that you want to have. And once I did that, I was like, you know what? Let me start writing out some tangible goals that I could actually make. Like, I knew I wanted to have financial freedom and be able to, eventually not work a 9 to 5 job. But I had no tangible idea of how I was going to get there. I hadn't broken that out into like what I could do now, in this year or this 3 months, or, in each quarter, what I was going to do to make that happen. So over the summer, I actually sat down and wrote some of those things out. How many, I want to have a certain number of units by the end of this year. I want to have a certain number of units by the end of next year. And I started making those moves to get me in that place while I'm here, where I'm at. So instead of me worrying about, like, am I going to leave the island or where am I going to do it? I just started making the moves of where I am. And once I started doing that, I sort of felt like the depression or the fog that I felt like I was under sort of started to lift. And things started to just kind of fall into place. I called the bank and, talked to one of the bankers there to find out, what kind of things I needed to do, what were the numbers. Got my pre-approval. I talked to another banker, just started making the connections and putting things together and getting things in order so that I could start making those moves. And then I met a realtor, and she seems really helpful because I actually have several realtors, but one is like a buyer's advocate. And she kind of works directly with buyers. And, I've enjoyed very much working with her. And so things have just really started to fall into place. But it wouldn't have if I hadn't started making those goals. If I hadn't sat down and decided what I was going to do in each period and by when, and start putting dates and times on things and tangible numbers. And so that's why sort of I got, off of the dating thing, and I had a few dates over the summer and those didn't go very well. And so it's just sort of like made me feel like it was time for me to refocus my energies onto things that were going to get me the life that I wanted to live. And as much as, finding love is part of living the life that I want to live, for me, like, it felt like it's starting to feel like the more immediate need for me is to get to the place of financial freedom that I want to be, where, my income is unlimited because it's based on what I'm willing to go out there and get. Rather than me just kind of working my job and staying, within the confines of what the company is willing to give me. I'm thinking outside of that and thinking about all of the opportunities that I can go get on my own outside of, my regular 9 to 5 job. As much as I love the company that I work for, I still know that there is something out there for me that I still need to go get. and that's what I'm going to do. So if you are a person who has ever thought, well, I don't, I want to do something, I want to start this business, or I want to, I want to make this product or do this thing or that thing, and you've put it aside because you thought you weren't smart enough, you didn't have enough money, you didn't have enough capital, you were too afraid, you wanted to, the comfort of your regular 9-to-5 job, so you were so afraid that you didn't want to even try to start a new business or whatever. Put those things aside, because like at the end of the day, you don't want to check out of this life with all types of regrets about all of the things that you could have done, would have done, should have done. All the shoulda, coulda, wouldas. You want to, like, when I check out of here, I want to not even have those. I want everything to be, oh, well, you know what? I tried that. It didn't work out, but I tried it. At least now I know I learned something from it. I can either revamp and move on or try something different. But all of the things that you don't even try, those end up to me being regrets, and I don't want to live my life with regret. So everything that I am trying to do right now, or everything that I am doing right now, because for me at this point, there is no more try, it's just do. And everything that I'm doing right now is going to put me on the path to the life that I want to live. I remember when I had my interview, I had an interview with the CEO of my current company when I started this job. And he asked me, where did I see myself in 5 years? And I told him that I saw myself sitting at a sidewalk cafe in Paris, eating scones or whatever, eating like croissants or whatever. And after I left that interview, I felt really bad because like I didn't hear from the company for like 2 weeks or 3 weeks or so after my interviews. And I was like, man, maybe I shouldn't have told him that, but that's literally where I see myself being. Is like living a leisurely, comfortable lifestyle, living off of the interest and living off of all the great investments and things that I've done for myself over the years. And, enjoying life and traveling and going places and doing wonderful things and meeting amazing people and talking to them about their lives and hearing their stories and stuff, and never having to worry about, asking, can I go on vacation? And, because my life is so in order and I'm living the life that I really have envisioned for myself. And so that's where what I'm doing now is going to get me. And I have to be willing to step out on faith or on just good attitude and smart thinking and, being willing to put those ideas that I have to make them a reality. So I guess that's what I hope for you guys is that, if there's something you've been wanting to do, just, write out some goals. And everything that you do should be focused on getting to that end goal. And, give yourself some deadlines. So if you want to finish your degree by the end of the year, or you want to finish, a certain amount of classes that you need to have towards your degree by the end of the year, make sure, okay, go to the school, put down, I want to go to the school and sign up for the classes by the end of this week. And then accomplish that goal and check it off. That may seem like a small goal, but checking off goals gives you like a psychological boost, I'm going to register for these classes before, the first month of school. I'm going to start taking the classes and finish up my classes by the end of the year. And then once you start checking off these boxes, it starts to feel really good. But if you just do nothing, you're going to be feeling bad about the fact that you didn't even try to do any of the things that you had on your list to do. So anyway, I don't want to go on and on and on to you guys about this, or, you know, preach to you about stuff, but I tell you, once I started making moves towards my goals, once I sat down and wrote them and then started making moves towards them, everything just started to shift for me. Like all of the depression and heaviness and sadness and fear and whatever that I was feeling before started to lift. And now I feel so confident and sure that I'm going to make my goal. I'm going to make my goal this year. And then I'm going to make next year's goal. And then I'm going to make the next year's goal. And it's amazing how once you start moving, things just start to, like, you know, your confidence builds, everything just starts to change. Anyway, I'm going to let y'all go. I want to thank you so much to all the people that are still subscribed to my channel. I appreciate you so much. I know I have not been consistent, but I do hope to get back to posting videos regularly. I may not always be posting about dating because honestly, I've kind of put it on the back burner. I'll probably post about the date that I had over the summer, but even that was sort of painful, so I kind of I created the video, but I never posted it. But yeah, I'm going to do better, and hopefully you guys can follow me on my journey to fulfilling my dreams, and as I do mine, you'll fulfill yours. So thank you guys so much for watching. I really appreciate it. I love you so much, and I will see you in the next video. Bye, everybody.